Donald Trump has won the Republican primary in New Hampshire overnight. It's his second victory in a row after Iowa. But the one remaining rival for the Republican nomination, Nikki Haley, has pledged to fight on. Joining me to discuss this is Greg Swenson, once again, chairman of Republicans Overseas UK, and of course, Benedict Spence still with us. Greg, look, I mean, this was the prediction. He was going to win. But, I mean, actually, looking at the 30-point lead he had over Ron DeSantis in Iowa, and then even more over Nikki Haley. I mean, I've only got the votes after 90% of the ballots have been counted. He won 55% of the vote. Haley won 43%. So it was certainly a closer match. But at the end of the day, as he's been pointing out, she lost.
A win is a win, of course, but
there is no prize for second place.
Right, but actually there is in this case. She got 9 delegates and Trump got 12. So it's you know, there's a reason
different
she's
states have
around.
Different systems, don't
That's
they?
Right.
It's either winner takes all or...
That's right. So, you know, she did win some delegates. She outperformed the most recent polling. So I think, you know, yesterday I was here saying it's going to be Trump by 20 plus, because that's what the polls were saying. And there was one at 27, 2 polls at 22, and he only won by 12.
Does this suggest that more of Ron DeSantis, the Florida governor who dropped out this week, that more of his voters have gone to support Nikki Haley than had been expected? Because he thought it was about 2/3 would support Donald Trump.
That's right, and I haven't seen that number yet, but I doubt it, because she won overwhelmingly with independents, and Trump won overwhelmingly with both Republicans and people who identify as conservatives. So it's 2 different voter groups. I'm not sure DeSantis...
But the key thing is this was the state that she'd poured her time, her energy, her supporters and her money into. This is her best case scenario.
It was well suited for her, the way Iowa was supposed to be well suited for Ron DeSantis.
Yeah.
But again, you know, Ron was in the same lane as Trump, so it was hard to peel votes away.
Well, now it's just down to the 2 of them. That's
right.
it. If you don't want Trump, she's your only alternative.
Right.
It's not being spread around. Next battle is a month's time.
Right. Big gap.
And in South Carolina.
In South Carolina.
Which is her home state. She was governor of South Carolina.
And she's polling down 30. And so,
below Donald Trump.
Because they don't have independents voting in the Republican primary like New Hampshire, and it's more conservative than New Hampshire.
Here's the thing. I mean, this is almost like sort of, you know, with conservative leadership contests, of which we've had a lot of experience in recent years.
Yes, we have.
That, you know, allowing you know, people like me who are non-affiliated to any party, you guys all being allowed to have a say.
Yeah.
There is an argument for that, with the appeal of a candidate across to floating voters, isn't there? Because although there's a massive big divide in America, you've got your Republicans and you've got your Democrats, there is also a huge swathe of voters who are independent.
Right, 40% right now. So that's important.
They basically say we don't want either of them.
Right, and that's why, again, 75% of Americans don't want Trump versus Biden. And, you know, look, I want Trump to win if it's versus a Democrat versus Biden. But it's difficult to look ahead to the general, and that's where we saw some cracks last night. You know, 66% of the people that voted for Trump would not necessarily vote for him if there's an indictment or a conviction.
Oh,
so
really?
There's a lot of moving parts, and 19%.
And yet, so the indictments is one thing. A lot of people say it's not bothering. In fact, it's given Donald Trump a lot of publicity, and every time he appears in court, his support and his donations go up.
With the base.
But the point at which, if and when he is actually, in some of these cases, are pretty darn watertight, I'm afraid. You know, Georgia, you know, it's on tape, for goodness sake, trying to basically fiddle with the election result in 2020. If he actually got, I mean, some of these actually come with a prison term. If he actually got convicted, if there were, say, a prison term, I mean, constitutionally, he can still run.
Yes, but a lot of Republicans have said that they won't vote for him if there's a conviction. And I might disagree with you on the merits of these cases, but he's got very friendly, or not very friendly, jury pools in Fulton County, in New York, and Washington.
But this is why he wants to delay these until after the election.
Of course.
Of course, when he's president, he's innocent of everything. Benedict Spence, I know you watch American politics as well closely. How do you think this is going to go?
I do think that he will be the nominee. I think it's just for as long as Nikki Haley does trail. It doesn't matter if she's able to close the gap. It just, you know, one state after the other, it just becomes more and more like a process, and so I think it will end up being that way. It's a question of how long she actually wants to stick it out for. I think she has a lot of staying power, but I don't think she's going to overtake him. Once he becomes the nominee, I do think there's a very good chance, I do think it's more likely that he will become president for factors outside of what's going on in the United States. What's going on in the Gulf of Aden right now is going to lead to an uptick in inflation later on down the year as we get towards polling day. That will be reflected on Joe Biden first and foremost,
You're
over
the person
everybody.
in charge. And there's a lot of Americans, aren't there, Greg, where they say, look, no, I was better off when Trump
Without a
was
doubt.
in. But a lot of the thing is, a lot of prime ministers like to take a lot of prime ministers and presidents, sorry, like to take a lot of credit for the economy doing well. It's like Rishi Sunak saying, I'm going to get inflation down,
Right.
and then it goes down. Oh, I did it. No, you had nothing to do with it going up. You had nothing to do with it going down.
Right.
But people are blaming Joe Biden for that, but they also credit to Donald Trump
On the economy,
for the good years.
They're right, though, because Trump's policies resulted in wage growth and a robust economy, whereas Biden's policies resulted in negative 2.5% real wage growth. So this is not a good topic
And
for
I
him.
think there is the stereotype that Americans don't care about foreign policy, but they do recognise that what goes on in the world affects the dollar in the pocket and the value of it. And they see that on Joe Biden's watch, other countries are prepared to take liberties that they just didn't under Donald Trump. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah, for me, one of the big concerns of the Trump presidency is what happens to funding for Ukraine. But again, we know a lot of people support him because they think there won't be all that money going on that. Next time, I mean, look, if Nikki Haley says she's going to carry on and fight, well, Ron DeSantis said the same thing a week earlier as well. Do you think she will? Do you think we'll even get to South Carolina? Or is this basically, as Benedict's been predicting all morning, basically a coronation at this point?
I mean, Trump's going to win the nomination. We get that.
In which case, what's the point of her fighting on?
Because she's winning delegates, and if something were to happen to Trump and he resigns or stops running,
She wants to be the last woman standing.
and that's why I wish Ron had
So you
stayed
think
in,
there's an
actually.
argument there for her to stay in the race?
I think,
no matter what.
I think
Will there
after-
be enough funding for her to do that, though?
we haven't seen that yet, and that's a great question. So if the donors
all about
pull
the
back-
money.
But she won 60% of independents last night. She was polling at 49, so she outperformed on independents. So you might get you'll see these Democrats and so-called moderates still supporting her as an alternative to Biden.
It's going to be really interesting to watch no matter what, even though it's going to be a rerun of 2020, of course.
Yeah.
Greg Swenson, thank you very much for
Great
keeping
to be
abreast of all of that from Republicans overseas at UK.